use Unpeeled, thanks to 3dprint.com. And today, we're going to talk about Mark Zuckerberg, and he has 3D printed some dresses. So we know there's a lot of people working on using 3D printers to make textiles or textile-like things, mostly cutting-edge stuff, mostly not very wearable stuff. But Mark Zuckerberg posted on Instagram that I said, I love building things and recently started designing 3D printing dresses with the girls, a few projects from the last month. And yes, I had to learn how to sew. Now, this could either be a PR thing that is a blatant attempt to humanize Mark Zuckerberg, or it could be the portent of something much more significant for us. As a 3D printing industry, of course, the fact that Mark Zuckerberg is at home apparently using 3D printers, making things with them, struggling like we do with making them, and having success like we do at home with making things, well, may actually inform his corporate life and corporate decisions as well. Years ago, we thought that Minecraft and other tools would let kids create at home, and they would then at home print things out. Now that kind of desktop 3D printing on every desktop future is taking much longer than people think. But of course, if Mr. Zuckerberg would see this and be inspired by this and say, hey, this is a way to make the metaverse real, or this is a way to let people create things, the fact that he knows the technology, the fact that he uses the technology day to day could, given his influence and given his extraordinary wealth, be hugely influential to us. So the fact that, this is a hobby for him, sure. But the fact that he understands and uses the technology could be really, really good for us. The next part of news comes to us from Australia, where Apollo Motorhomes Holidays, an RV manufacturer, motorhome manufacturer, has partnered with Markforged to use a X7 carbon fiber printer to make custom parts. Now, at the moment, what they're going to be making is miniatures, new models. They want to make lean manufacturing concepts, things like jigs, fixtures, that kind of stuff to implement really quickly. They're thinking about things like connectors, and later on they want to make training models to train on and train their staff on, that kind of thing, and hope to get into spare parts on demand. Now, of course, there's a huge potential here. I wrote a piece a while ago about one of the areas that interests me most in all 3D printing is to make specialty vehicles, make specialty vehicle components, like entire chassis components. A lot of this custom work, as you can see here from the picture, there's a lot of guys doing a lot of work here, sticking together things, welding things together. It's a very highly manual, labor-intensive task. So, to give these people the tools of 3D printing to make these mass customized components, to make low volume components, to not tie up a lot of capital and materials, but instead get out parts quicker, and to reduce dependence on overseas supply chains, to reduce kind of the time to wait for components, and then long wait times is a big issue for these manufacturers at the moment. Now, 3D printing could be hugely advantageous. So I really think that any kind of special vehicle, fire trucks, police cars, food trucks, RVs, motorhomes, trucks, trailers, all that kind of stuff is going to be absolutely huge. So I'm really following this space very, very closely. The next project is an architectural one. It's Atsumi and Nicolas Preaud have worked for 3 years on exploring 3D printing to make a Tsungoite teahouse at the Kanazawa Shrine. Now, this is a tiny tea house. You can kind of fit 2 people, can sit there and drink tea together. And it's made out of over 900 curved 3D printed components. Now, these are inspired by Tsugite and Shiguchi. These are assembly systems, like jointless kind of assembly systems that usually use wood. And in this point, what they've done is they've printed wood-based PLA, and they've printed it using desktop 3D printers. So wood PLA, of course, may or may not be sustainable, depends on how we look at it. But one thing that is known is that the sawdust component, the wood component, can be made out of industrial leftovers or sawdust from wood processing. And of course, we all know that it has, besides a fun smell, it also has a really kind of interesting aesthetic as well. Now, what they did is they printed these 900 components, it would have taken quite a while on a bunch of desktop 3D printers, and then they assembled them together. And this process uses no tools and uses no kind of fixtures or metal fixtures or assembly points like that. And I love this. I think this is an absolutely fantastic idea. We've been looking at 3D printed architecture through large-scale printers, through robot arms and things like that, through printing concrete. But imagine we can make a truly sustainable PLA material Imagine we could reduce the water usage in PLA, we could make it from a non-food source material, and imagine we could then use industrial sawdust to reinforce it. And then imagine you could just, well, it would take you, but just think about it, like it would take you quite a while to print this on your home printer, but imagine you had 100 printers, right? Or 1,000. All right, imagine you made one of these components in a day or so. Then all of a sudden you can make one of these very, very quickly. And we all know the prices of wood-based PLA. We all know that it would get cheaper if you would buy it separately or make it yourself. And, you know, the printers don't cost that much nowadays. So imagine you had 1,000 or 10,000 printers. Yeah, then all of a sudden something like this could get very interesting. So I'm not sure if this is the future, but I love that this is people thinking very differently about the future than everyone else is at the moment. And I think this is such an obvious idea that none of us, and obvious and also kind of crazy that none of us thought about it. So I thought that's wonderful. Another thing that not a lot of people have been thinking about, it also has to do with PLA, and that's Jabil and Natureworks. And Natureworks is the company that makes a lot of the PLA in the world, the polylactic acid in the world. And they've collaborated to make a powder bed fusion material. I totally did not see this coming. A PLA powder bed fusion material. Their idea is to make it like a low ecological footprint, environmentally friendly material. Now again, we know that PLA uses significant amounts of water and is a food source material, so we need to realize this. But at the same time, their idea is to make it a non-petroleum based material that could be commended. The idea is to replace things like, well, we know that sustainable materials are really high demand, especially on consumer products, car companies, big companies that have a high visibility. They want these more sustainable, less eco footprint, less energy, less water use, more ecologically sourced materials. They want them. So it's really, especially in consumer products, it's really growing. And one of the big stars there is Arkema's PA11 material for powder bed fusion, which is very, very popular. Especially on the consumer side. So Jabil may be, making its way in that kind of area as well. It's also notable, this is a development for powder bed fusion open printers. So you can put this in a Farsoon, you can put this in lots of different systems. So, are a lot of companies going to be making powders and making materials for these open printers? The investment is quite considerable, actually. It's quite tricky to do this. But maybe a company like Jabil can help you, and then it could be doable for more companies to make more powders. We're still very much PA11, PH12, and it's with the material variety on powder bed fusion is very limited if we see it compared to, for example, what's available and much easier to make filament printers. The other thing is Jabil, Jabil's a powder manufacturer. You can go there and make powder. How serious is this huge contract manufacturing firm about selling powder? Is it just making it for itself? Or is it going to be a major player on the powder world and on the filament world? We still don't know that. The company seems to commercialize it, but not like move into the space as big as it can. Because of course for Jabil it could be fantastic. Imagine it makes its own powder, sells to a bunch of people, uses that to reduce its cost, and then it can sell 3D printed components to its customers. It could really, kind of like what Amazon is doing by using its own servers to sell Amazon Web Services to people. It could work in a similar way. But we still don't know how serious Jabil is about powder and about filament. But, generally we can expect this to be more available, and once people get it dialed in for all the different printers, which will take a lot of material and a lot of time, then it may be an option for people to make jigs and fixtures and tools and maybe some consumer parts with a kind of like eco badge kind of thing. So I think it's an interesting development. Again, I did not see this coming at all. A very interesting day in news generally. My name is Peels, and this is 3D Printing News Unpeeled. Thanks to 3D